Hi, welcome to our channel of ignou audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Social Sciences, SOSS, Master's Degree Programs MA in Psychology, MAPC, Second Year MPCE 021 Counselling Psychology Block-1 Introduction Unit-3 Theoretical Approaches to Counselling 3.0 Introduction. In this unit we will be dealing with theoretical approaches to counselling. We start with psychoanalytic and Adlerian approach, and put forward the view of human nature within which the concepts of psychoanalytical theory such as the id, ego and superego are presented. Then we take up the role of counselor in psychoanalytical approach, the goals and techniques in which we present the free association, dream analysis, analysis of transference and interpretation. Then we take up the phenomenological approach, that is of Adler, and discuss the theory I in terms of counseling. We consider the view of human nature in this theory, the role of counselor, goals of the phenomenological approach and the techniques thereof. This is followed by person-centered, existential and gestalt approaches, and here we consider the view of human nature and indicate how it is differently viewed as compared to the psychoanalytical theory. We then consider the role of counselor in person-centered approach, the goals and techniques in the same. The next section deals with rational emotive therapy and transactional analysis and how these are used in counseling. Finally, we take up the behavioral approach, its principles, goals and techniques. Then we take up the reality therapy and discuss how counselors use the same. 3.1 Objectives. After completing this unit, you will be able to discuss the need of theoretical approaches to counseling, define psychoanalytic approach to counseling, differentiate between cognitive and behavioral approach to counseling, explain the views of human nature proposed by different approaches, distinguish the role of a counselor in different counseling techniques, and explain the techniques used in different theoretical approaches. 3.2 Psychoanalytic and Adlerian approach. There are many theoretical models of psychology and counseling. Some are best utilized for particular situations and needs. Often, an eclectic approach, or the utilization of several approaches, is best for the resolution of problems. Effective counselors scrutinize all theories and match them to personal beliefs about the nature of people and change. Since the 1950s, psychologists have adopted a number of diverse approaches to understanding human nature and behavior. Most counseling approaches fall within four broad theoretical categories: psychoanalytic, affective, cognitive, and behavioral. In addition to these, there are cognitive behavioral approaches also, which are gaining importance in recent years. Different approaches exist because there are different ways of explaining the phenomena. For example, emotions can be explained in terms of the thoughts associated with them or the physiological changes they produce. Psychologists try to explain psychological phenomena from a range of different perspectives, and so use different approaches. 3.2.1 Psychoanalytic approach. This approach, developed by Sigmund Freud in the early 1900s, involves analyzing the root causes of behavior and feelings by exploring the unconscious mind and the conscious mind's relation to it. Psychoanalysis can take on a variety of forms, varying from practitioner to practitioner. Psychoanalytical and psychodynamic therapies are based on an individual's unconscious thoughts and perceptions that have developed throughout their childhood, and how these affect their current behavior and thoughts. Psychoanalysis focuses on an individual's unconscious, deep-rooted thoughts that often stem from childhood. Through free association, dreams or fantasies, clients can learn how to interpret deeply buried memories or experiences that may be causing them distress. View of human nature. The Freudian view of human nature is dynamic. According to him, human nature could be explained in terms of a conscious mind, a subconscious and an unconscious mind. The conscious mind is attuned to the events in the present, to an awareness of the outside world. The subconscious mind is an area between the conscious and unconscious mind which contains aspects of both. Within the subconscious are hidden memories of forgotten experiences that can be remembered if a person is given the proper cues. Finally, beneath the subconscious mind is the unconscious mind, the most powerful and least understood part of the personality. The instinctual, repressed and powerful forces of the personality exist in the unconscious. Id, ego and superego. Id is a concept equivalent to a demanding child, and it is ruled by the pleasure principle. It refers to the raw, unorganized, inherited part of the personality. Its main goal is to reduce tension created by our primitive drives such as hunger, sex, aggression and irrational impulses. Ego is a concept analogous to a traffic policeman, and it is ruled by the reality principle. Ego's job is to meet the needs of the id, while taking into consideration the reality of the situation. The ego is sometimes called the executive of an individual's personality. It is responsible for the higher cognitive functions such as intelligence, thoughtfulness, and learning. Superego is the third concept, which can be equal to that of a judge, and it is ruled by the moral principle. Superego represents the rights and wrongs of the society. It has two subparts, the conscience and the ego ideal. The conscience prevents us from doing morally wrong or bad things. The ego ideal is that part of the superego that includes the rules and standards for good behaviors. These behaviors include those that are approved of by parental and other authority figures. Obeying these rules leads to feelings of pride, value, and accomplishment. The ego ideal motivates the person to do what is morally proper. The superego helps to control the id impulses, making them less selfish and more morally correct. Ego defense mechanisms. Ego defense mechanisms are normal behaviors which operate on an unconscious level and tend to deny or distort reality. They help the individual to cope up with anxiety and prevent the ego from being overwhelmed. They have adaptive value if they do not become a style of life to avoid facing reality. Some of the major defense mechanisms described by psychoanalysts are the following. 1. Repression. It is the withdrawal of an unwanted idea, affect, or desire from consciousness by pushing it down or repressing it into the unconscious part of the mind. 2. Reaction formation. It is the fixation of an idea, affect, or desire in consciousness that is opposite to a feared unconscious impulse. 3. Projection. It is a form of defense in which unwanted feelings are displaced onto another person. 4. Regression. When confronted by stressful events, people sometimes abandon coping strategies and revert to patterns of behavior used earlier in development. 5. Sublimation. It is the diversion or deflection of instinctual drives, usually sexual ones, into non-instinctual channels. It allows us to act out unacceptable impulses by converting these behaviors into a more acceptable form. 6. Denial. It is used to describe situations in which people seem unable to face reality or admit an obvious truth. 7. Rationalization. It is the substitution of a safe and reasonable explanation for the true, but threatening cause of behavior. 8. Displacement. Displacement involves taking out our frustrations, feelings and impulses on people or objects that are less threatening. 9. Intellectualization. It allows us to avoid thinking about the stressful, emotional aspect of the situation and instead focuses only on the intellectual component. IV. Role of a counselor. Counselors who practice psychoanalysis play the role of experts. They encourage their clients to talk about whatever comes in their mind, especially childhood experiences. After a few face-to-face interactions, such an environment is created, often have the client lie down while the analyst remains out of view, in which the client feels free to express difficult thoughts. The role of the analyst is to let the clients gain insight by reliving and working through the unresolved past experiences that come into focus during sessions. The development of transference is encouraged to help clients deal realistically with unconscious material. Psychoanalytic counselors also use diagnostic labels to classify clients and help develop appropriate plans for them. Goals. The goal of psychoanalysis varies according to the client, but they focus mainly on personal adjustment, usually inducing a reorganization of internal forces within the person. In most cases, a primary goal is to help the client become more aware of the unconscious aspects of his or her personality, which include repressed memories and painful wishes. A second major goal is to help a client work through a developmental stage not resolved in primary goal. If accomplished, clients become unstuck and are able to live more productively. A final goal is helping clients cope with the demands of the society in which they live. Psychoanalysis stresses environmental adjustment, especially in the areas of work and intimacy. Techniques. Free association. Client reports immediately without censoring any feelings or thoughts. The client is encouraged to relax and freely recall childhood memories or emotional experiences. In this way, unconscious material enters the conscious mind, and the counselor interprets it. At times, clients resist free association by blocking their thoughts or denying their importance. Psychoanalysts make the most of these moments by attempting to help clients work through their resistance. Dream analysis. Dream analysis is considered the first scientific approach to the study of dreams. In this, clients report dreams to counselor on regular basis. Freud believed that dreams were a main avenue to understanding the unconscious. Counselor uses the royal road to the unconscious to bring unconscious material to light. Clients are encouraged to remember dreams. The counselor analyzes two aspects: the manifest content, obvious meaning, and the latent content, hidden but true meaning. Analysis of transference. Transference is the client's response to a counselor as if the counselor was some significant figure in the client's past, usually a parent figure. This allows the client to experience feelings that would otherwise be inaccessible. The counselor encourages this transference and interprets positive or negative feelings expressed. Analysis of transference allows the client to achieve insight into the influence of the past. Counter-transference. It is the reaction of the counselor towards the client that may interfere with objectivity. Interpretation. Interpretation should consider part of all above-mentioned techniques. When interpreting, the counselor helps the client understanding the meaning of the past and present personal events. It consists of explanations and analysis of a client's thoughts, feelings, and actions. Counselor points out, explains, and teaches the meanings of whatever is revealed. Counselors must carefully time the use of interpretation. 3.2.2 The phenomenological, Adlering approach. Alfred Adler attempts to view the world from the client's subjective frame of reference, e.g., how life is in reality is less important than how the individual believes life to be. The basic premise is that human beings are always becoming, that we are always moving toward the future, and our concerns are geared toward our subjective goals rather than an objective past. We are constantly aiming towards what Adler calls superiority. When we have unrealistic or unattainable goals, this can lead to self-defeating behaviors and discouragement, which may foster neurosis, psychosis, substance abuse, criminal behavior, or suicide. View of human nature. He emphasized that it is not the childhood experiences that are crucial, but it is our present interpretation of these events. He thought that people are primarily motivated by social interest. It is Adler's most significant and distinctive concept, which refers to an individual's attitude toward and awareness of being a part of the human community. He measured mental health by the degree to which we successfully share with others and are concerned with their welfare. He explained how happiness and success are largely related to social connectedness. Another major component of his theory is that people strive to become successful. Each person strives for growth and has a need for wholeness. If this need is fulfilled, the person develops a superiority complex, otherwise the person can develop inferiority complex. His theory places considerable emphasis on birth order and sibling relationships. Adler's explained 5 psychological positions. Oldest child receives more attention, spoiled, center of attention. Second of only 2 behaves as if in a race, often opposite to first child. Middle often feels squeezed out. Youngest is being considered as the baby. Only, does not learn to share or cooperate with other children, learns to deal with adults. Role of counselor. Adlering counselors function primarily as diagnosticians, teachers and models in equalitarian relationships they establish with their clients. They try to assess why clients are oriented to a certain way of thinking and behaving. The counselor makes an assessment by gathering information on the family constellation and client's earliest memories. The counselor then shares interpretations, impressions, opinions and feelings with clients. The client is encouraged to examine and change a faulty lifestyle by developing social interest. Goals. The goals of Adlering counseling revolve around helping people develop healthy lifestyles. One of the major goals is to develop social interest. The 4 major goals of the therapeutic process: establishment and maintenance of an egalitarian counseling relationship. Analysis of a client's lifestyle. Interpretation of client's lifestyle in such a way that promotes insight. Reorientation and re-education of the client with accompanying behavior change. Techniques to establish above-mentioned goals and to accomplish behavior change. Counselors use following techniques. 1. Confrontation. The counselor challenges clients to consider their own private logic. When clients examine this logic, they often realize they can change it and their behavior. 2. Asking the question. The counselor asks, "What would be different if you were well?" The question is often asked during the initial interview, but it is appropriate anytime. 3. Encouragement. Counselors encourage their clients by stating their beliefs that behavior change is possible. It is the key to make productive lifestyle changes. 4. Acting as if. Clients are instructed to act as if they are the persons they want to be. 5. Task setting. Clients initially set short-term range, attainable goals and eventually work up to long-term and realistic objectives. 6. Catching oneself. Clients learn to become aware of self-destructive behaviors or thoughts. At first, counselor may help in this process, but eventually this responsibility is taken over by clients. 7. Push button. Clients are encouraged to realize that they have choices about what stimuli in their lives they pay attention to. The technique is like pushing the button because clients can choose to remember negative or positive experiences. 3.3% CENTERED, Existential and Gestalt Approaches. 3.3.1% Centered Approach. Person-centered approach, founded by Carl Rogers in the 1940s, is based on the belief that people have the capacity and the right to move towards self-actualization. This approach views people as rational, forward-moving, and realistic beings. He contended that negative, antisocial emotions are the result of frustrated basic impulses. This approach views the client as their own best authority on their own experience, and the client is fully capable of fulfilling their own potential for growth. View of human nature. Rogers believed that people are essentially good. Humans are characteristically positive, forward-moving, constructive, realistic and trustworthy. Each of us has the innate ability to reach our full potential. As infants we are born with it, but because of early experiences, we may lose our connection to it. The self-concept we develop in response to our early experiences may tend to alienate us from our true self. In this theory, there is no such thing as mental illness. It is just a matter of being disconnected from our self-potential. This approach is often considered the most optimistic approach to human potential. Rogers views the individual from a phenomenological perspective. That is, according to him, the important aspect is the person's perception of reality rather than an event itself. His ideas are often referred to as self-theory. The self is an outgrowth of what a person experiences, and an awareness of self helps a person differentiate him or herself from others. Role of a counselor. The counselor's role is a holistic one. He or she sets up and promotes a climate in which the client is free and is encouraged to explore all aspects of self. The counselor strives to develop a greater degree of independence and integration for individuals in their surroundings and the people in their lives. Clients are prepared to be open to the experience of counseling, to have trust in themselves, to evaluate themselves internally, and pursue a willingness towards continued growth. Clients will experience this technique differently depending on perceptions of both the past and the possibilities of future events. Exploring a wider range of beliefs and feelings help clients in this process. It helps clients to better appreciate who they are and what they are capable of accomplishing. Goals. The goals of person-centered counseling considers the client as a person, not his or her problem. Rogers emphasizes that people need to be assisted in learning how to cope with situations. The client moves towards the goals of realization, fulfillment, autonomy, self-determination, and perfection by becoming more realistic in their perceptions. The aim is to make them more confident, more self-directed, more positively valued by themselves and less likely to be upset by stress. They should be healthier, integrated, and well-functioning persons in their personality structure. Techniques. The counselor as a person is vital to person-centered counseling. Counselors display openness, empathic understanding, independence, spontaneity, acceptance, mutual respect and intimacy. They encourage clients to work toward achieving these same conditions as ultimate counseling goals. The primary techniques are the counselor's attitudes toward people in the following. 1. Unconditional positive regard. It means that the counselor accepts the client unconditionally and non-judgmentally. The client is free to explore all thoughts and feelings, positive or negative, without danger of rejection or condemnation. Crucially, the client is free to explore and to express without having to do anything in particular or meet any particular standards of behavior to earn positive regard from the counselor. 2. Empathic understanding. It means that the counselor accurately understands the client's thoughts, feelings, and meanings from the client's own perspective. When the counselor perceives what the world is like from the client's point of view, it demonstrates not only that that view has value, but also that the client is being accepted. 3. Congruence. It means that the counselor is authentic and genuine and transparent to the client. There is no air of authority or hidden knowledge, and the client does not have to speculate about what the counselor is really like. Rogers mentioned the following 6 core conditions for personality change. 2 persons are in psychological contact. The client is in a state of incongruence. The counselor is congruent and involved in the relationship. The counselor experiences unconditional positive regard for the client. The counselor experiences understanding of the client's frame of reference. The communication of empathic and positive regard is achieved. Methods that help promote the counselor-client relationship include active and passive listening, reflection of thoughts and feelings, clarification, summarizing, confrontation of contradictions, general or open leads that help client self-exploration. 3.3.2 Existential approach. Existential approach can be described as a philosophical approach that is not designed to cure people but instead helps the client reflect and search for value and meaning in life. Existentialism understands the human to be challenged by the reality of temporary existence, and the view that life has no inherent meaning and that the meaning had to be constructed. Authentic human beings are those who could face existential futility and yet still go on to construct a meaningful life. The existential perspective was introduced into the US by Rollo May. He believed that individuals can only be understood in terms of their subjective sense of self. May was concerned with people's loss of faith in values. If we lose our commitment to a set of values, we will feel lonely and empty. Life will be meaningless. Viktor Frankl, a famous existentialist, believed that the prime motive of human behavior is the will to meaning. In order to find a meaning in our troubled existence, we need to discover meaning through values, and we discover our values through work, through love for others, and through confrontation with our own suffering. View of human nature. According to the existentialists, human beings form their lives by the choices they make. They focus on the freedom of choice and the action that goes with it. We have no existence apart from the world. Being in the world is man's existence. The basic issue in life is that life inevitably ends in death. Thus, we experience angst or anguish because of our awareness of death's inevitability. According to Frankl, 1962, the meaning of life always changes, but it never ceases to be. We can discover life's meaning in 3 ways: by doing a deed. That is, by achieving or accomplishing something. By experiencing a value. As for instance, experience the value of work of nature, culture, or law. By suffering. That is, finding a proper attitude towards unalterable fate. Role of a counselor. Existential counselors are focused on helping the client achieve and expand their self-awareness. It is assumed that once self-awareness is achieved, the client can examine new ways of dealing with problems and accept the responsibility of choosing. The role of the counselor is to facilitate the client's own encounter with himself or herself, to work alongside him in exploring and understanding better his values, assumptions, and ideals. The counselor is concerned about what matters most to the client and to avoid imposing her own judgments, and to help the client to elaborate on his own perspective. The counselor's responsibility is to be aware of his or her own biases and prejudices. The counselor's goal is to understand the client's meaning rather than their own and recognizing the client's assumptions and underlying life themes. The counselor must be sensitive to and help the client explore his weaknesses, limitations, and responsibilities, as well as his strengths, opportunities, and freedoms. Goals. The goal of this technique is not to cure people of disorders, not to simply get rid of symptoms. Rather, it is to help them become aware of what they are doing and encourage them to act, make life-changing decisions, etc. It is aimed at helping people get out of their rigid roles and see more clearly the ways in which they have been leading a narrow and restricted existence. The specific goals of existential counseling are to enable people to become more truthful with themselves, to help the clients to reflect upon and understand their existence, to increase self-awareness and authentic living, to take responsibility for decisions, to encourage clients to find their own meanings and truths, to help people examine roots of some of their anxieties and learn how to better cope with them. To get the person to believe, to experience life and to live more fully in each moment. IV techniques. Existential therapy is not considered as a system of highly developed techniques. Subjective understanding of clients is primary and techniques are secondary. It is not technique-oriented. The interventions are based on philosophical views about the nature of human existence. It is free to draw techniques from other orientations. The use of counselor's self is the core of therapy. It is commonly integrated within other frameworks. The most effective and powerful technique counselors have is the relationship with the client. They also make use of confrontation. Existential counselors borrow some techniques such as imagery exercises, awareness exercises, goal-setting activities, etc., from other models. 3.3.3 Gestalt approach. Gestalt approach is an integrative orientation in that it focuses on whatever is in the client's awareness. This term was first used as the title of a book written by Fritz Perls, et al., 1951, Gestalt, a German word meaning whole. It operates as a therapy by keeping the person in what is known as the here and now. In this approach, feelings, thoughts, body sensations and actions are all used as a guide to understanding what is central for the client in each moment. The centrality of whatever is in the client's awareness is an ideal way to understand the world of the client. Unresolved conflicts are worked out in the counseling session as if they are happening in that moment. An emphasis is placed on personal responsibility for one's own well-being. View of human nature. Human nature is rooted in existential philosophy, phenomenology, and field theory. Individuals have the capacity to self-regulate in their environment. Gestalt counselors believe that human beings work for wholeness and completeness in life. Self-actualizing tendency emerges through interaction in environment. Each person tries to integrate self into healthy, unified whole. Overdependence on intellectual experience and inability to resolve unfinished business causes problems, such as the client may lose contact with environment, or become over-involved, may encounter unfinished business, or become fragmented. Role of a counselor. Gestalt counselor can help their client to both work through and move beyond their painful emotional blocks. By following their client's ongoing process, with special attention to both the therapeutic relationship and the client's style of interrupting that process, the counselor uses appropriate techniques. The counselor must pay attention to client's awareness, to client's body language, nonverbal language, and inconsistency between verbal and nonverbal message, e.g., anger and smile. The counselors must create atmosphere that promotes growth. The counselor is exciting, energetic, fully human and personally involved. Goals. The main goal is to increase the client's awareness of what is. Awareness includes knowing the environment, knowing oneself, accepting oneself, and being able to make contact. Stay with their awareness, unfinished business will emerge. Change occurs through a heightened awareness of what the client is experiencing moment to moment. The approach stresses present awareness and the quality of contact between the individual and the environment. 4 major principles of Gestalt therapy are: holism, interested in the whole person, emphasis on integration, thoughts, feelings, behaviors, body, and dreams. Field theory, organism must be seen in its environment or its context as part of a constantly changing field, relational, in flux, interrelated and in process. Figure formation process, how individual moment to moment organizes environment. 1. Background equals undifferentiated field or ground. 2. Figure equals emerging focus of attention. 3. Organismic self-regulation equals restore equilibrium or contribute to growth and change. IV techniques. Some of the most innovative techniques ever developed are found in Gestalt therapy. These techniques take 2 forms: exercise and experiments. Exercises are ready-made techniques such as enactment of fantasies, role-playing, psychodrama, dream work, empty chair, confrontation such as what and how, making the rounds, exaggeration. Experiments, on the other hand, are activities and grow out of the interaction between counselor and clients. They are not planned. The experiments are to assist clients' self-awareness of what they are doing and how they are doing it. Gestalt experiments include the following: internal dialogue exercise, making the rounds, reversal technique, rehearsal exercise, exaggeration exercise, staying with the feelings 3.4 rational emotive therapy and transactional analysis 3.4.1 rational emotive therapy. Albert Ellis started cognitive behavior therapy in 1955. This technique assumes that cognitions, emotions, and behaviors interact and have a reciprocal cause and effect relationship. It is very directive and concerned as much with thinking as with feeling. It also teaches that our emotions stem mainly from our beliefs, evaluations, interpretations, and reactions to life situations. It is an educational process in which clients learn to identify and dispute irrational beliefs that are maintained by self-indoctrination and replace ineffective ways of thinking with effective and rational cognitions. View of human nature. RET assumes that we all are born with a potential for both rational and irrational thinking. There is a biological and cultural tendency to think crookedly and to needlessly disturb ourselves. Humans are self-talking, self-evaluating, and self-sustaining. We develop emotional and behavioral problems when we mistake simple preferences, love, approval, success, for dire needs. There is a tendency to invent disturbing beliefs and keep ourselves disturbed through our self-talk. Humans have the capacity to change their cognitive, emotive, and behavioral processes. Role of a counselor. Counselors are active and direct in this approach. They act as instructors who teach and correct clients' cognitions. Therefore, they must listen carefully for illogical and faulty statements from the clients and challenge their beliefs. The counselor focuses on the thoughts and beliefs of the client, trying to identify those which create problems. Ellis identifies several characteristics desirable for counselors. They need to be bright, knowledgeable, empathetic, persistent, and scientific. Goals. The primary goal of RET is to focus on helping people realize that they can live more rational and productive lives and to change the way clients think by using their automatic thoughts to reach the core schemata and begin to introduce the idea of schema restructuring. Another goal of RET is to help people change self-defeating habits of thought or behavior. One way of teaching them through ABC of RET: A equals existence of fact, event, behavior, attitude of individual. B equals person's belief. C equals emotional and behavioral consequence or reaction of individual. D equals disputing intervention challenge beliefs. E equals effective philosophy after disputing. F equals new set of feelings. Human beings are largely responsible for creating their own emotional reactions and disturbances. Goal is to show people how to change irrational beliefs that directly cause disturbed emotional consequences. Techniques. RET encompasses a number of diverse techniques. Two primary ones are teaching and disputing. In the first few sessions, counselors teach their clients the anatomy of an emotion, that feelings are a result of thoughts, not events, and that self-talk influences emotion. Disputing thoughts take one of three forms: cognitive, imaginal, and behavioral. Cognitive disputation involves the use of direct questions, logical reasoning, and persuasion. It also uses syllogisms, that is a deductive form of reasoning. Imaginal disputation depends on the client's ability to imagine and explore a technique known as rational emotive imagery, REI. Behavioral disputation involves behaving in a way that is opposite of the client's usual way. Two other powerful techniques are confrontation and encouragement. 3.4.2 Transactional analysis. Transactional analysis is another cognitive theory formulated by Eric Berne in the early 1960s. He believed that the majority of our life experiences are recorded in our subconscious minds in an unaltered fashion and become a part of the way we behave. The behavior is subconsciously designed to get reactions and determine how others feel about us. It is a method of dealing with behavioral disorders and can be used to manage classroom behavior if we understand that children's acceptable and unacceptable behavior is designed to ascertain how others feel about them. He believed that there were three states of mind in all humans, no matter how old they were, called the ego states. Berne believed that a lot of people get stuck in one ego state more than the other two and that this may be due to early childhood experiences. His theory was that in childhood we have a life position assigned to us, because of the experiences we have from birth onwards. He thinks there are four possible life positions: I'm not okay, you are okay; I'm not okay, you're not okay; I'm okay, you're not okay; I'm okay, you are okay. Views of human nature. Transactional analysis is an optimistic theory based on the assumption that people can change despite an unfortunate events of the past. It focuses on 4 methods of understanding and predicting human behavior. Structural analysis, understanding what is happening within the person. Transactional analysis, describing what happens between 2 or more people. Game analysis, understanding transactions that lead to bad feelings. Script analysis, understand a person's life plan. Role of a counselor. The counselor initially plays the role of a teacher. The counselor helps the client obtain the tools necessary for change in the present. Counselors work contractually on solving, here and now, problems and focuses on creating productive problem-solving behaviors. Using transactional analysis, counselors establish an egalitarian, safe and mutually respectful working relationship with their clients. This working relationship provides tools which the clients can utilize in their day-to-day functions to improve the quality of their lives. Goals. The primary goal of TA focuses on helping clients transform themselves from frogs into princes and princesses. Others' goals are to learn the language and concepts underlying transactional analysis, to learn analyze relationships with one another in terms of TA, and to develop our ability to engage in straight, effective communication with one another on a daily basis. Techniques. TA has initiated a number of techniques for helping clients to reach their goals. The most common are structural analysis, transactional analysis, game analysis and script analysis. Other techniques include treatment, contract, interrogation, specification, confrontation, explanation, illustration, confirmation, interpretation and crystallization. 3.5 Behavioral approach. This approach is based on the premise that primary learning comes from experience and applies learning principles to the elimination of unwanted behaviors. The initial concern is to help the client analyze behavior, define problems, and select goals. Behavioral therapy is effective for individuals who require treatment for some sort of behavior change, such as addictions, phobias, and anxiety disorders. It concentrates on the here and now, without focusing on the past to find a reason for the behavior. The behavioral approach says that people behave in the way that their environment has taught them to behave, e.g., through rewards and punishments, modeling, etc. So this approach attempts to change the way the environment reinforces particular behavior and works at applying learning principles to help people to learn new behaviors by behavioral experiments, role-playing, assertiveness training, and self-management training. 4 aspects of behavior therapy. 1. Classical conditioning. In classical conditioning, certain respondent behaviors, such as knee jerks and salivation, are elicited from a passive organism. 2. Operant conditioning. It focuses on actions that operate on the environment to produce consequences. If the environmental change brought about by the behavior is reinforcing, the chances are strengthened that the behavior will occur again. If the environmental changes produce no reinforcement, the chances are lessened that the behavior will recur. 3. Social learning approach. It gives prominence to the reciprocal interactions between an individual's behavior and the environment. 4. Cognitive behavior therapy. It emphasizes cognitive processes and private events, such as client self-talk, as mediators of behavior change. View of human nature. As the behaviorist views human nature, humans are neither good nor bad but are living organisms capable of experiencing a variety of behaviors. Their personality is composed of traits. The behaviorist believes that people can conceptualize and control their behavior and have the ability to learn new behaviors. In addition, people can influence the behavior of others as well as be influenced by the behavior of others. Behaviorists concentrate on behavioral processes as they are closely associated with overt behavior and believe that all behavior is learned, whether it is adaptive or maladaptive. They also believe that learning and development occur in one of the 3 ways: respondent learning, operant conditioning, and social modeling. Role of a counselor. A counselor may take one of the several roles, depending on his or her behavioral orientation. The counselor functions as a consultant, teacher, advisor, and facilitator. The behavior counselor tries to help the individual to learn new and more adaptable behaviors and to unlearn old non-adaptable behaviors. The behavior counselor focuses attention on the individual's ongoing behaviors and their consequences in his own environment. He tries to restructure the environment so that more adaptable patterns of behavior can be learned and non-adaptable patterns of behavior can be unlearned. An effective behavioral counselor operates from a broader perspective and involves the client in every phase of counseling. Goals. Basically, behavioral counselors want to help clients make good adjustments to life circumstances and achieve personal and professional objectives. A major step is to reach mutually agreed upon goals. Blackham and Silberman, 1971, suggests 4 steps in this process. 1. Defining the problem. The clients are asked to specify when, where, how and with whom the problem arises. 2. Take a developmental history knowledge about how the client has handled past circumstances. 3. Establish specific goals. Counselors help clients break down goals into small, achievable goals. 4. Determine the best method for change, helping the client to reach desired goal by choosing the appropriate method. Continuous assessment of the effectiveness of method is must. Techniques. General behavioral techniques are applicable to all behavior theories, although a given technique may be applicable to a particular approach at a given time in a specific circumstance. Systematic desensitization. This is a technique used specifically with phobias. It helps the client to pair relaxation with previously feared stimuli. Aversive therapy. It is almost the opposite of systematic desensitization and has the client pair some aversive stimuli, e.g., nausea, pain, disturbing images, etc., with some behavior that she is having difficulty giving up. For example, a person trying to quit drinking might take a drug that makes her nauseous whenever she drinks alcohol. Both systematic desensitization and aversive therapy make use of classical conditioning learning principles, learning that occurs when things get paired together. Systematic desensitization teaches the client a new thing by pairing relaxation with something they fear, whereas aversive therapy teaches a new thing by pairing a bad experience with some behavior they want to eliminate. Behavior modification programs. These approaches try to increase positive behavior and decrease negative behavior by using reinforcements and punishments in the most effective ways based on learning principles. The counselor will try to help the parents identify in what ways the undesired behavior is being reinforced and eliminate that reinforcement and help them develop ways to reinforce desired behavior. Use of reinforcers. Reinforcers are those events which increase the probability of occurrence of a desired behavior in the future by applying consequences that depend on the behavior in question. Positive reinforcement. The administration of positive consequences to workers who perform desired behaviors, pay, promotions, interesting work, praise, awards. Negative reinforcement. The removal of negative consequences when workers perform desired behaviors, nagging, complaining. Punishment. Administering negative consequences to undesirable behaviors in an effort to decrease the probability that the behavior will occur again in the future. Shaping. It is a process in which undifferentiated operant behaviors are gradually changed into a desired behavior pattern by the reinforcement of success approximations, so that the behavior gets closer and closer to the target behavior. Extinction. When pairing of conditioned and unconditional stimulus stops, then association weakens and conditioned response becomes less frequent till it disappears. Generalization. Conditioned response occurs in response to stimuli which are similar to the conditioned stimulus. Discrimination. Conditioned response does not occur to all possible similar stimuli. Learned difference between stimuli. The cognitive behavioral approach examines the patient's beliefs and behaviors. Individuals hold beliefs about themselves and relationships that affect behavior. Negative beliefs lead to maladaptive behaviors. By examining and challenging these beliefs with new information, subsequent new behaviors can change. This approach also examines behaviors directly so that new, more adaptive behaviors can be developed. This approach is especially beneficial for changing habits, learned behavioral patterns, phobias, and many forms of depression. 3.6 Reality Therapy Counseling approach developed by psychiatrist William Glasser helps people gain control over their lives by self-evaluating their behavior, then choosing behavior that meets their needs effectively and responsibly. It is based on choice theory that how we deal with unsatisfying relationships. Clients choose their behaviors to cope with unsatisfying relationships, depressing, obsessing, and worrying. We often mistakenly choose misery in our best attempt to meet our needs. We act responsibly when we meet our needs without keeping others from meeting their needs. 2 basic needs which are important are 1. To love and to be loved, and 2. To feel worth. View of human nature. William Glass's reality technique focuses on consciousness, that human beings operate on a conscious level and that they are not driven by unconscious forces or instincts. A second belief about human nature is that there is a health or growth force within everyone. The force manifests at two levels, viz. I. Physical and E. Psychological. Physical needs or survival needs like food, water, shelter, etc. are automatically controlled by the body. The four primary psychological needs are belonging, the need for friends, family and love; power, the need for self-esteem, recognition and competition; freedom, the need to make choices and decisions; and fun, the need to play, laughter, learning and recreation. Behavior is purposeful because it is destined to close the gap between what we want and what we perceive we are getting. All behavior has four components: acting, thinking, feeling, and physiology. Role of a counselor. The counselor basically serves as a teacher and model, accepting the client in a warm and involved way while focusing the client on the control if displayed thoughts and actions. The counselor assists the client in dealing with present and establishes satisfying relationship. The counselor is a role model of a human who knows what life is all about and is also one who is successful in dealing with life and not afraid to discuss any subject with their clients, teaches them to behave in more effective ways and helps client look for better choices. Goals. 1. The primary goal of reality technique is to make their clients psychologically strong and rational. They must learn to be responsible for their own behavior that affects themselves and others. 2. The second goal is to help clients in knowing what they want in life. It is vital to know the goals of life if we want to act responsibly. 3. Other goals are to help clients to get connected or reconnected with people they have chosen to place in their quality world. 4. To teach clients choice theory and to teach client to behave in more effective ways. Technique. Reality therapy is an action-oriented technique. Some of its more effective and active techniques are teaching, employing, humor, confrontation, role-playing, involvement, and contracts. It uses the WDEP system, given in the box. W. Wants, what do you want to be and do? D. Doing and direction, what are you doing? Where do you want to go? E. Evaluation, does your present behavior have a reasonable chance of getting you what you want? P. Planning, SAMIC, simple, attainable, measurable, immediate and controlled. There are 8 steps in reality therapy that strategically incorporates its goals and techniques, and these are given below. 1. Develop a relationship with client. Involvement. 2. Focus on behavior. Ask, what are you doing? 3. Client evaluates his/her behavior. Ask, is your behavior helping you or getting you what you want? 4. If not, make a plan to change your behavior. 5. Get a commitment to carry out plan. Perhaps sign contract. 6. Accept no excuses when plan is not carried out. Simply remind client of plan. Perhaps revise plan. 7. Do not punish. Clients who fail already have a failure identity. Punishment does no good. 8. Never give up. 3.7 Summary. There are many theoretical models of psychology and counseling. Most counseling approaches fall within 4 broad theoretical categories: psychoanalytic, affective, cognitive, and behavioral. The Freudian view of human nature is dynamic. According to him, human nature could be explained in terms of a conscious mind, a subconscious, and an unconscious mind, whereas Adler focuses on our present interpretation of the events. He thought that people are primarily motivated by social interest. Existentialism understands the human to be challenged by the reality of temporary existence, and the view that life has no inherent meaning. Meaning had to be constructed. The person-centered approach views the client as their own best authority on their own experience, and the client is fully capable of fulfilling their own potential for growth. In Gestalt approach, feelings, thoughts, body sensations and actions are all used as a guide to understand client behavior in each moment. The centrality of whatever is in the client's awareness is an ideal way to understand the world of the client. The behavior approach is based on the premise that primary learning comes from experience and applies learning principles to the elimination of unwanted behaviors. Reality approach is based on choice theory, that how we deal with unsatisfying relationships. Clients choose their behaviors to cope with unsatisfying relationships. Each theory has its own benefits and limitation. The counselor should use an integrative approach depending upon the problem of the client. Thank you. Subscribe to our channel for more updates, and we will see you with the next chapter.